why does my view on it take precedence to his own?
Well, you're more informed.
I mean, I guess so, but at the same time, like, I mean, maybe this is looking into this too deeply. I think I'm overanalyzing it here. But if they're truly, like, they're not really friends with him. They're just saying, like, oh yeah, we're your friends solely to deceive him, so they can say 2 weeks later, haha, we were joking about it. I feel like that wouldn't be worth their time. It'd have to be something that they were getting out of the relationship. Maybe he was, buying them food a lot, or like letting him sleep at his house, that kind of thing. And there'd be other things that he'd be getting out of it also, rather than just like these people that said like, oh yeah, we really like you. Because I feel like if he was doing all those things, it would be kind of an unequal relationship. And maybe he doesn't realize it, that he also would be leading a happy life just because he wasn't realizing that he was taking advantage of, not just for the deception. I don't know if that made any sense.
Does anyone have a follow-up to this? Or is this the second one? Right, okay.
Well, when I was reading about the deceived man, it made me think of the movie The Truman Show, where that's like, in very elaborate sort of scheme to deceive him. And it's a good question, what would have happened if he had never found out about it? He would have died. Not knowing about the deception, would we have said that he had lived, a satisfied, complete life? And in a way, I would say that he did. And so, but, saying that does feel funny.
Isaac, then.
So I would say in the Truman Show example, you'd say he could live a happy life that way if he was able to do all the things he wanted, even within the illusion, married, had kids, had a great life, the story was well. But I think we're conflating 2 different arguments in front of us. One of happiness being a feeling versus the more idea of like the happy life and the big estate and all that. And in that case, I think the idea of deception, I think trying to find different happiness and pleasure is where he calls the deception thing. And the idea of objective versus subjective is a different issue because, as I said before, like even within the subjective person, the person can have a subjective desire to have true friends, and the fact that he doesn't know that his friends are fake would therefore be he's not having a happy life by his own standards. I don't think it's really has to do with the question of objective standards.
I mean, in that moment, is there a difference though? So as far as he knows, he does have those 2 friends. He feels fulfilled in that way.
So that's if you take happens to be a feeling, then yes, but
I think even more so than just a feeling though. I mean, like, yes, the feeling is based upon a faulty belief, but that faulty belief leads to, the feeling of happiness and is probably part of the overall sense of eudaimonia and fulfillment and flourishing that Crowd and Aristotle have been talking about. I mean, I'm sure that wasn't, if his only standard for his happiness in his life was those friends, then he wouldn't be a eudaimon anyway, just because he wouldn't be fulfilled in other areas of his life.
I think in this example, if we talk about the Truman Show, you're conflating like a large scale, or you're talking about a large scale deception, and then that means you're conflating deception with constant manipulation to the point that your life is scripted in a way that you don't realize. And I think if you're living your life according to a script that you don't control and you're not aware of, then it's not accurate to say that you're fully happy in the way that we would describe happiness normally.
Well, yeah, I did kind of to add on that. I agree. I just think that this idea that like ignorance is bliss and therefore like it's you defer to subjectivity. Like I guess that works kind of, but it seems to me that there is kind of a first of all, I don't think that's what Aristotle really means because throughout the work he's constantly talking about how you need to be educated, you need to be of a certain class, you need to be a man, you need to be able to do all these things. So I don't think he would want to say at all that you can lead a happy life simply by being really ignorant of your surroundings and thinking that you're happy when in fact you're not. I don't think that would be something he'd want to allow for at all. And I at least think that there is an objective standard. And I kind of agree with what Isaac was saying that if you're if you're being constantly manipulated, then yes, you may think that you're being happy, but I don't think that is actually equated with a real kind of ethical sense of happiness as Aristotle describes it.
Okay. Luke?
And I think Aristotle, this might be big, so someone be ready to correct me, but I think Aristotle might even call the hedonist who's just after pleasure might call him in the way that we use happy now, might call him happy, but it's just saying like you could be a whole lot happier. You are missing your full potential or whatever. Which is, so I guess I'd be interested to hear what people think if it matters to be happier than you already are. If you're pleased, does being happier, if you know about being happier, doesn't it make you have to act that way? I don't know.
Alright, Quinn and then Annie.
So I do agree that there's something a little strange when it comes to calling the person who's being deceived happy, but at the same time, I don't like the implications of saying that he isn't really happy, because the simple fact is that means that anyone in the world would be unable to call themselves happy at any time, because we could always be being deceived, all of us, all of our friends, could just be pretending to like us. And, even if, we find out later that, this is what happened and, that's the truth, how do we know we weren't being deceived when we found out or something like that? There's always going to be misinformation. So, I don't think then we could ever say that we're really happy, and feeling happy would be the only thing really left.
Alright, Annie, do you want to go? Or?
I mean, I guess in response to the argument about how if you're happy and you want to be more happy, Kraut directly addresses it. I was trying to find it, but I can't right now. He says something like, if it's worth switching to you, by changing all your life and doing that, and you ultimately will be more happy. I'm wording it really poorly. Does anyone remember what I'm talking about? He says that. Well, he basically kind of does a defense of it in that way that says, yeah, if it is worth it to you and you would be ultimately more happy, then you should do the switch, and that's kind of where Kraut and Aristotle align, I think.
Okay. Isaac and Will.
Well, just to respond to what Quinn said, I always learned that it wasn't really philosophically kosher to make a slippery slope argument. It sounds to me like you're saying we'll never know if, sort of we could live in the Matrix or something like that. You can't necessarily know. I think you can, and it's hard to articulate exactly how it is that I know that all my friends aren't faking it all the time. But I think I do know, and I think most people, you're right, I don't know, but I'm not sure that it's necessary. I'm not sure that it's necessarily relevant to think of the minuscule chance that all of my friends have been
Right.
faking it.
I know what you're saying, but the guy in the example thinks that exact same way.
I know, but
So,
I didn't
that's
like
the
the
hard
example very much either.
Okay, Will and then.
I just want to also say, there's a clarification for, if you look at the actual text, he makes a distinction between feeling happy and being happy. And he says we might very easily say that this man feels happy, but we're reluctant to say that he is happy. I don't know if that helps the discussion at all.
I don't like that distinction that he makes between feeling and is. And an example that I think would be similar to the deceived man would be an old scientist like Newton, who thought he knew all these scientific claims about gravity and that made him happy, but now we know that most of the stuff he said was completely wrong. So will we now say that he was just deceived and he wasn't actually happy because all of his scientific discoveries were false?
Alright.
Yeah, I think when he tries to make that distinction between feeling happy and you're right, you can't really do that. And also the idea that he talks about with the tallness analogy, that the scientists discovered that people can grow to be 7 feet, so now there's a new objective standard of tallness, so they call it something else. Well, that seems like a subjective view because they change over time, like you said. Science changes, and then all of a sudden what they used to believe is different. So I tend to support what he was saying and Quinn was saying, because you might be in the Matrix, and then he's right there, oh, we're not in the Matrix. But there's practical examples of you don't really know, so unless you're going to go around doubting yourself, it doesn't make any sense to support that view.
Alright, let's start wrapping this up, so.
In terms of the distinction between being happy, feeling happy, and achieving a state of happiness, I thought, at least the way I read it, maybe this will clarify things, was kind of like what Luke was talking about earlier, where the hedonist can feel happy, like there is a happiness one derives from pleasure or something